start our recording. Okay, welcome everybody. Today we have Dr. Patricia Goodson, who's going to talk about every writer has a system, what's yours? Dr. Goodson is a presidential professor for teaching excellence in the Department of Health and Behavior at Texas A&M University School of Public Health. She obtained her bachelor's degree in linguistics and a master's in philosophy of education from the universities in Brazil. She has a master's in general theological studies from Covenant Theological Seminary and a PhD in health education from the University of Texas at Austin. In 2007, while acting as Associate Dean for Graduate Program Development in the soon-to-be again College of Education and Human Development, she created and implemented a writing support service for graduate students based on a model for academic writing that she developed. The model is known as POWER, and it means promoting outstanding writing for excellence in research. She has authored 2 books on academic writing, Becoming an Academic Writer, 50 Exercises for Paced, Productive, and Powerful Writing in its 3rd edition, and 90 Days, 90 Ways, Inspiration, Tips, and Strategies for Academic Writers, which is co-authored with Dr. Meena Digi and Dr. Malika Shir-Mohammadi. So without further ado, I will hand over to you, Dr. Goodson.
Thank you. I really appreciate the nice introduction, and thank you for being here. I was expecting a small, tiny little group of graduate students who probably already had heard me talk ad nauseum, probably. And I am so surprised to see so many of you that I know from not even the School of Education. So thank you. Thank you for being here and spending part of your Thursday morning with me. What I would like to ask first before we start, Matt, is, I forgot to ask, is do we go until 10:45 or is 10:45 when I should stop talking for questions? What's the structure?
Start rounding up about 10:30, 10:35, and then we'll do about 10 minutes of Q&A, and that will close us out right on the nose at 10:45.
Okay, all right. So I sort of have a timer myself also. All right, folks, so welcome. What I would like to do today, it's that time of the semester when we're kind of drinking from a fire hose. And so I thought that instead of adding to the fire hose amount of information type of thing, what I really would like to do is have a conversation and extend to you basically an invitation. And you choose whether to accept it or not. But the invitation I want to extend to you is to spend a little bit of time today reflecting on your own writing and on yourself as an academic writer. So the way we're going to start this, and again, you may choose not to accept the invitation, but if you do, all you're going to be doing is thinking. And if you want to share something later, you're free to, and you're welcome to. But how I would like to start is by asking you to write for 3 minutes. I have my timer set up here for 3 minutes. And I would like to ask you to answer this question in your writing, if you can. What is your system for handling your academic writing? If I if I were invisible and had a little camera, and I were to follow you during the day and observe you doing your academic writing, and maybe have a little bit of insight into what you are thinking about when you're doing your academic writing or before you're doing it, your emotions and how you feel about it, and how you approach it, how you think about it. What would that little camera of mine be seeing and recording? So everybody has a system for their academic writing. What is your system? Now, I have not defined system, so however you define system right now is good to go. So everybody have something to write with, I hope. next to you, even if it's just a napkin, a pen and a napkin, tiny little piece of paper like I have here. I'm going to start my timer. The only rule for this is the following. When I say go, you start writing and do not stop to think. Keep writing, even if you can't think. You write, I don't know what my system is. I can't come up with anything. You're writing all of that. Don't think about it and then write. Use your writing to think, basically. So you're supposed to write nonstop. Don't care about typos, mistakes, whatever. Nobody's going to read it. You can throw it away afterwards. And when I say stop, then you stop. That's the only time you lift your hand from the paper or stop typing, whatever you're doing. Good? Understood? Good to go? Okay, are you ready? Here we go. 3 minutes. Start. Okay, you might want to complete the sentence that you're working on and put a period there and set it aside for a few minutes now. And you'll come back to it later, I hope, during the day. But why am I asking you to write about that and reflect? Why am I inviting you to reflect on what is your system for academic writing? I'm doing this because I have learned throughout many years of teaching academic writing and facilitating and helping academic writers, I've learned something really interesting because when I started learning a bunch of new strategies that made my writing productivity really increase and made a huge difference, and I started sharing it with my graduate students and I started teaching my graduate class on writing productivity, I was struck by a bimodal phenomenon. I would have students that would take my classes and then come back semesters later and say, Dr. Goodson, I tried the strategies that you taught and they didn't work. And I go, okay, I know it won't work for everybody, but yeah, okay, that's fine. But I was intrigued by that. And then I would have other students that would come back a few semesters later and say, this was life-changing. My entire approach to writing was transformed when I learned this whole system or took your class, whatever it was. And I was going, wow, what's the difference? What is it? Why is it? Is it the individual students and their personalities or the way they handle things, etc.? And I came across something through observation that I thought was really interesting that led me to the system thinking, was that the people who said these things don't work, they were trying a strategy that I would teach or recommend. Let's say write regularly in small chunks every day. They would try that, and they would try it for a short period of time, and then that strategy wouldn't work. They would drop the strategy and try a different strategy, and they would try it for a couple of weeks or maybe a couple of months, and then it wouldn't work, and they would drop the strategy and they would pick up another strategy. So what I observed was, for the people for whom it wasn't working at all, is that they were trying strategies in isolation. And then when each strategy didn't work in isolation, they would drop them, pick up another one in isolation. For the ones for whom the system or what they were learning was working, they were actually creating a system. They were adding elements. So they would try a strategy and it would work, or they thought there was something to it. They would add another strategy, and then they would add another strategy. And I looked back at my own lineage of learning about this, and I thought, yeah, that's how I developed my strategies. I was very skeptical when I started learning about strategies for writing productivity. So I wasn't ready to buy into everything I had learned in a workshop. I got one strategy and I started trying it, and then I got the feeling of, oh, there's something here, this can work. Then I didn't drop it. I added another strategy that was recommended. And I'm going, oh, this is making it even better. And so I started coming to the conclusion that because academic writing is so darn complex a task, folks, if you break down the writing task, the academic writing task, into everything that's involved neurologically, cognitively, psychologically, and socially, you'll be overwhelmed by how many elements are involved in just writing something. It's just incredibly, incredibly complex, and it's dynamic. All of the complexities at all the levels interact with each other all the time, and with you, and you change. And so a complex task requires a system for approaching it. And when that dawned on me, I was going, oh, that was a huge aha moment. Any complex task, like if I want a kitchen, if I have my kitchen sink and it's leaking and I need to fix it, just one wrench might not do the job. I need to know what to do, in what sequence, what other tools I might need, what I need to prepare before. I need a system. And the more complex the task, such as academic writing, the more, not complex, but the more efficient this system needs to be. So what do I mean by system? So at a very basic level, what I mean by system is a set or a group of elements, of things that together interact with each other, sometimes modify each other, and interact and change over time, but they work all together towards a common purpose. That's what I mean by a system. And so at a very basic level, I'm going to share with you an image that I use to convey the idea of a system for academic writing. And again, this is a very basic system, but it will help you get the idea, okay? So I've envisioned academic writing as needing, when we want to tackle it and we want to master it, we need a system to approach it. So what's the most basic and manageable system that we can come up with? System that has 4 elements. The most important element in this picture is represented by the cone. So it's you're the most important element, of course, but you also need a set of strategies. You need a set of appropriate tools, and you need a subsystem or a set of supports, plural, actually, not just singular, okay? So at a very minimum, you need to start thinking about, and here's the invitation for you to start reflecting about yourself as the academic writer and everything that pertains to you. We'll talk about it in a second. You have to think about, what are your strategies? What is it that you know or don't know how to do in a certain sequence, or, you know, how to the system, a set of tools, you as a person, one element in that, a set of strategies, knowing what to do, when to do it, in what sequence, for instance, when to edit, how to edit your work, that kind of thing. A set of tools, there's so many useful tools that can help you out there, and least of which is not AI, of course, and a set of supports. We're going to talk about that if we have time in a minute. But my invitation to you is to start thinking, what is my system and what do I have in terms of these very basic elements? Of course, the writing system, like I said, is so complex. There's so many other variables in the system, but many of those other variables we can't control. So for instance, the reward system in academia for writing, what kind of writing is rewarded or not, we can't control that immediately, maybe in the long run, but not immediately. So here in my little, very crude system, I only have elements that we can actually master and control ourselves. And so my invitation to you is to start thinking about, what is it that you have in terms of these basic elements? So let's start with you as the major element in this system. What about you that facilitates or make this system more efficient or less efficient? Well, start thinking about things like emotions. How do you feel when you approach academic writing? I know a lot of academic writers who are very aversive to academic writing. They're okay with other types of writing, but when it comes to academic writing, they're completely aversive, or they will stall, they will block, or they have very high levels of anxiety. I know other academic writers who absolutely love it and approach it with like, when I'm writing, I'm on vacation type of thing. I don't feel like I'm working. So are elicited by your academic writing. And it's important, if you do any kind of mind-body work related to health, you got to think about this. You're going to be doing a lot of writing throughout your career, and I mean a lot. If you are constantly experiencing, for instance, high levels of anxiety when you're doing your academic writing, believe me, trust me, been there, done that. That accumulation of anxiety over time will start doing things to your health that you're not even aware of, because you're not paying attention to that level of anxiety. So if you do have things like anxiety, or or you have some kind of maladaptive response to writing, try to observe it, admit it, and then go seek help with people that there's tons of support. And I'm going to give you some resources later on that you can go and explore to potentially deal with that. If you, on the flip side, you deal with academic writing as this is, the moment when you feel relaxed at home, you love it, even if it's hard, you enjoy the challenge, etc. Yeah, build more of that and see if you can actually share that with other people who don't have that. Try to observe yourself and see, what is it that makes it exciting, and how can I communicate? How can I bottle that? You could be rich and famous if you discovered the way of making people really love academic writing. It could be a huge contribution. But aside from emotions, one thing that for me is really important when I think about the writer is not beyond emotions, is the idea of mindset. What kind of a mindset do you approach your academic writing with? So if you approach your academic writing with a mindset, well, writing is something I have to do after I do all of my research, or after I do all of my thinking, then I have to do this writing so I can share what I'm learning with other people. I would venture to say that that mindset might not be as useful to you. If you could shift or slightly change or slightly tweak your mindset to actually start viewing writing as your most important tool for your thinking, if you can start using writing to think and writing to develop new ideas and writing to create, oh my goodness, it is a huge shift. So shifting from writing as just a tool to report or to communicate, shifting from that mindset to writing is something that is an investment in myself and is a tool for me to grow, to go downward, to go in depth into my scholarship, make new connections. It's an amazing shift if you can do that. Another mindset that I would venture to, I'm just going to throw it out at you. I don't have time to explain it very much. I'll give you resources where you can go and look for more explanation on that. But just make a note of that. That another mindset that's really, really useful for you, if you can adopt it, is a mindset of looking at your academic writing as something that requires practice. As I say in my studios and in my writing classes, everything else that we learn with our minds, our brains, and our body, any other motor neurological behavior that we engage in, for instance, learning how to play the violin, any other behavior like that, we expect that there will be periods of continuous practice in order to perfect that playing of that instrument, perfect the performance, right? Why is it that writing is the only neurological motor behavior task that we expect people to just do it well the first time around? I don't know where that idea came from. It seems to be almost universal across. We didn't learn that writing requires practice, and a lot of it. And I'm an advocate for thinking about academic writing from a perspective or a mindset of deep or deliberate practice. Make a note of that term, deep or deliberate practice, because it's a type of practice that is different from just practice. When we say, go practice something, we tend to think, oh, just go do it over and over again, right? The more you do it, the better you get at it. Well, not really, because the more you do it inappropriately, the better you'll get at doing it inappropriately. You see what I'm saying? So deep practice is a type of practice that is actually geared towards, always towards improvement. So keep that in mind, that having a mindset that you may feel like you're not a very good academic writer. I always say, whenever anybody says to me, oh, I'm not very good at academic writing, I always say, add the word yet. I'm not good yet. I'm not as good as I want to be yet. But it is something that is a learned behavior. Academic writing is a learned behavior. Anybody can do it, actually. We think not. We think only us in the elite can do it. But yeah, anybody can learn how to do it because it's learnable, right? So shifting your mindset to this is something that can be learned, therefore it can be improved, and it can be improved with deeper deliberate practice, will start making you look at your writing as your writing sessions every time you stop to write something as, okay, this is a chance to practice. This is a chance to improve. This is a chance to get better at it. Another mindset that's really important, if you're familiar with Carol Dweck's work on fixed mindset and growth mindset, having a growth mindset as you approach your writing is extremely important. If you have a fixed mindset, I'm not good at writing, you will never be open to the possibility that you can learn, that you can get better, and that you can improve. But if you have a growth mindset, you look at this and you say, oh, this is really hard. And it is. Academic writing is really hard. Communicating clearly is really hard at any level. And you look at it and you say, but there are ways that I can improve. I can go and learn, and I can get better at this. And I can spot where I'm weak at. I'm weak at this part of the communication. Maybe I can go after some help for this and improve on it. If you can start having that approach to your academic writing, it's going to shift things. You're going to start relating to your academic writing in different ways. So that's in very basic elements, very, very, very broad strokes and very crude strokes, some of the things that I would like to invite you to think about. How do you relate to your academic writing? How do you approach it emotionally and in terms of a mindset? What is it that you believe about yourself and your academic writing? And what I really want to challenge you to think about is that it can be changed. You can become an outstanding academic writer. You just need to know what to do. You need to have a system, right? And in that system, some of the things you need to have, one of the elements is a set of strategies. So do you have a set of strategies? Do you know what to do, when to do it, in what sequence to do things? So what kinds of strategies might be helpful? I don't have time in 40 minutes to give you strategies that I give in a, 3-credit hour graduate level course. It takes a lot of time to go through, but I'm going to mention a few, and then at the end, I'll give you a handout and resources that you can actually go in and look in detail at each one of those. But make a note of some of these strategies. For instance, what is your strategy for actually getting your writing done? Do you have your writing as something that's routine? Have you routinized? Do you have a habit of writing? Do you write regularly as possible, ideally every day at the same time in small chunks? Or do you write in small chunks, or do you binge write? Do you write for 6 hours nonstop before the deadline for something? Or do you start that project, 8 weeks before the deadline, and you're working 10 minutes a day every day on that project? What is your strategy? How do you view the value, and how do you execute the value of small chunks, small investments of energy and time into something over time? So one of the main strategies I recommend to students in my classes is writing regularly, preferably every day while you're establishing a habit, in small chunks. How small? That depends on how many minutes you can do it without throwing up, as I say. There's a beauty to doing it in small chunks with lots of breaks, like 25 minutes, the Pomodoro technique, 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off, 20 on, 5 on, 5 off. Some people go, oh, that's crazy for me because it takes me a very long time to get into things. Okay, if it takes you a long time to get warmed up and 25 minutes not enough, observe yourself and say, okay, how many minutes can I do? And then when is it that I start to need a break? And then break right at that moment. The beauty of doing this writing in small chunks, I have learned, and it has been reinforced for me over and over, the beauty of small chunks with lots of breaks is this. When we start our writing session, we usually start with our intention and our attention. And we start writing and we say, okay, I have all morning, I have 4 hours today, nothing, no meetings, no classes. Great, I can write for 4 hours. All right, go. We start. And because we are the fruit of our generation too, I mean, we are products of our generation, our attention spans are decreasing. Everyone's is. So we start right here, and after a few minutes, really minutes, not hours, our attention, our intention, our energy is going to start dipping very slowly. But we're troopers, right? And we've got discipline and we stay with it. So here's our intention and our attention going down after about 30, 40 minutes max for people. And then we do the rest of the 3 hours or 4 hours of the morning that we had to, we're doing our writing at this downward curve level here of attention, but we stay with it because we have discipline and we're good at it, right? However, when you look at the 4 hours you spent writing, about 80 to 90% of what you did, you were operating at the lower end of your energy and your intention and your attention levels, actually. But you got something done. Okay. The beauty of doing it in small chunks is this. When you start, your attention, intention, and energy are high, you keep going. As soon as you sense that it's going to start dipping And it's usually around minute, like 25, 30, 45, maybe for some people with a lot of practice, maybe 45 to 50 minutes. When you sense it start dipping, it's going to start dipping, you break. When you break, you take a break, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever it is, do something completely different. Don't keep staring at your screen, email, nothing like that. Walk around the block for a couple of minutes, whatever, do something very different. Come back. When you come back, what happens is like you hit the reset button. You reset your attention and your intention at a high level again, and then you start. And the minute it starts dipping, you break and you reset again, and you start, and it starts dipping. And the more you do this, you might do it for 4 hours. But what happens is that overall, about 90% or 80% of your writing time was done right here at this high attention and intention level. So to me, that's the beauty of this strategy of writing in small chunks with breaks. But for a lot of people, that strategy doesn't work because it does take them time to actually start getting focused. What you need to understand the principle, understand what's behind and how to manage your energy, and adapt the strategy to your need and to your way of working. Okay. But then to that strategy, add other strategies that say, for instance, okay, I show up for my writing session. What am I going to do in my writing session? And there are tons of strategies for that. The one I recommend the most is separating the generating from the editing. And we can talk for hours about that element, but it's a mindset also, understanding that. And that if we try to generate an idea and make it really well worded at the same time, we're going to block. We're going to stare at our screen for a very long time because it won't come. But if you allow yourself to separate and say, okay, let me just capture this idea, and I'm going to capture it in an ugly way. It's going to look horrible. I'm not going to show it to anybody. I can't even think of the words in English very well, and I put a lot of numbers in there. That's fine. You captured the idea. In a second stage or a second and separate moment, you come back and you clean it up and you edit and you find the perfect word and you play with it and you polish it, basically. So understanding that writing happens in at least 2 distinct moments and separating the 2 moments it's a strategy that makes your writing just take off, because you're not holding yourself back by trying to produce the perfect first sentence, which takes about an hour to come for me. I can never produce the perfect first sentence on the first try, but I can produce the most ugly first sentence. Yeah, but the idea is there, right? And nobody has to see that ugly first sentence. If I don't want to, I don't have to share that, right? So that's another strategy that's very useful. Another strategy is actually logging your writing time and tracking your time. Incredibly useful strategy for accountability, for motivation, for data for yourself. Other strategies have to do with how to actually edit your own work. I'll give you a resource that has them step by step, we'll outline later. But do you have these strategies? Do you know what to do? Do you even know that there are strategies that you can use and that you can use over and over, so you don't have to keep thinking, how am I going to solve this problem? How am I going to tackle this? You already have your set of strategies, your little toolbox of strategies that you know and that you use over and over. The other element in this system is a set of tools. Do you have tools that you can use? Software, resources, people you can go to, whatever it might be, things that give you pleasure when you write. Some people prefer to write by hand certain things. So do you have tools that you love to use to write? Do you have your favorite notebook or computer, laptop, whatever it is that you use to write? Do you have spell checkers and grammar checkers and style checkers and even AI now can be a useful tool for writing. We're not going to get into that discussion right now, but it can be useful if you know how to use it well. Do you have a set of tools? Do you have a toolbox with that? Do you have tools to motivate yourself even? Because sometimes, it's academic writing is mighty lonely, which gets me to support is another element in this system. What is your system or subsystem for supporting yourself? And I will always claim that academic writers need minimum three different types of support. We need emotional support, we need social support, and we need instrumental support. What do I mean by instrumental support? I mean feedback. We need feedback all along our writing process, not merely at the end. The model of getting feedback on our writing after we're done writing is a broken model. I can spend 2 hours talking about just about that, unfortunately. What I learned early on and made a huge difference in my writing was writing is a process, is a developmental process. It goes through growth stages, and we need to have feedback as input into that system as it grows all along the way, not merely at the end. And academic writers can get that from their peers, from their advisors, from their colleagues, from reviewers, but we need to build that into our writing practice in a certain approach. Again, I'll give you resources in a minute that can detail that. But right now, start thinking about your support list of people that you go to support you emotionally in your writing, and socially in terms of other people that are doing the same things you're doing, and they get it. They get how hard it is to spend a whole 8-hour day in an office and it looks like you haven't done anything because you wrote all day, and they're going, oh, I know why you're so tired, right? The people that gave you emotional support, they might go, why are you so tired? You were in the office and you didn't do much except write. Why are you so, they don't understand. But the social supporters, they get it because they're doing it too. And the instrumental supporters are the people that can give you different types of feedback at different moments of your writing project. Do you have those? And who are they? So I'm going to stop sharing this screen and I'm going to share with you the handout that I will make available. I'm going to send it to Matt later on because somehow I cannot upload it. Since the Zoom is not on my end, I couldn't upload it to you guys here, but I'm going to send it to Matt. He'll send it to you. A list of resources, basically, that will help you with some of these elements in the system. So I have here a few online resources, just a few, folks. It's just, there are too many actually to mention. So I just wanted something manageable for you that you can start pulling the thread. So here on online, these are tools or resources basically for support. These are people basically that can give you some kind of support if you need them, but also you can get tools and motivation from these. I want to particularly mention this first bullet that's going on right now. Helen Sword and Margie Thomas, they developed something called ACRI Moments for the month of November. And you can find it at Substack. You can, if you subscribe to it, it's free. All you need to do is register for it. And then every day in November, you're going to get a prompt in your email for academic writers, actually. So Helen Sword invited about 20-something academic writers, coaches, professors, etc., to write a prompt for academic writers. And there's some really beautiful and inspiring prompts there that will make you think, that will add to this invitation that I'm offering to you today. I have a post there. My post is already posted. It's on day 5. And my post is Writing to Relieve Loneliness. And you can take a look at that if you want to. It'll give you some motivation. It'll give you some tools to think, and you'll feel supported because it's an international academic writing community. People doing some really interesting work if you read the comments there. These other people, Dr. Erin McTighe, Dr. Dominique Klepp, these were professors, associate professors here at Texas A&M in the School of, now hopefully again, College of Education. And they were co-directors of Power Services with me. They left academia to actually provide support for academic writers online. So Dr. Erin McTighe has the Positive Academic website, and Dr. Dominique Klepp has the Inspiring the Creative Within. Dr. Maggie Huerta also is a former graduate student here at A&M and power consultant, collaborator with me, and she has started this website and service called The Real Academics. And she offers writing retreats and support groups, also writing support groups, all for academic writers. Take a look at their stuff. In terms of books, these books are listed here because they have a lot of the strategies I mentioned in detail and tools and also some motivation. So Michelle Boyd wrote a book called Becoming the Writer You Already Are. And this book is basically about discovering your process. She doesn't call it a system, she calls it a writing process. This book is absolutely beautiful. And take a look, all academic writers here that I'm recommending to you. But she also left academia and is now doing support services online for academic writers. I have two of my books here. I have a conflict of interest in mentioning my books. I'm not interested in you buying them. Go get them at the library. But my Becoming an Academic Writer has just come out in its 3rd edition this year, although the copyright is 2024, actually. But in this book, I have exercises for all of these strategies, and I talk about this issue of system. So if you want to hear a little bit more about writing, you needing a complex system to attack your writing, take a look at this. And then there are strategies here outlined as exercises. So this is a book more for doing than for reading. The other book, the other one of my book is a book just for motivation and inspiration, the 90 Days, 90 Ways. It actually has cartoons in it too. So it's supposed to be motivational with some prompts and some tips and some strategies. It's kind of a fun book. It's meant to be a fun book. Donnell Stevens' book, Write More, Publish More, Stress Less. This is a treasure trove of tools, strategies, and tips like you'll find nowhere else. And finally, to end, Helen Sward. Helen Sward is a big guru name in academic writing if you don't know her. She just retired from the University of Auckland in New Zealand, but she also used to teach at Indiana University. Her latest book, Writing with Pleasure, which I endorsed, believe it or not, is for academic writers. We tend to think of the title as for creative writers. No, this is for academic writers. If you want motivation, if you want inspiration, that's it. If you want tools, strategies, Stephen's book, my book, and if you want motivation, also Boyd's book and a little bit of my 90 Days, 90 Ways. Okay, it's 10:43 on the dot. I'm sorry I didn't stop for questions. Matt.
Very good. Well, thank you, Dr. Goodson. I will say very briefly, I took the power writing class and the writing class with Dr. Klupp way back in like 2015, 16. I just hit my 37th publication and published 3rd book. So if you listen and you follow the steps, then it will work. I can see very evidently when my colleagues are writing because I get these huge emails, and when they're not, I get one line. So I see a difference in the spilling over of writing motivation.
Yes.
I think we have time for just 1-2 questions. So I'll take those from the group. Feel free to either put something in the chat and I can read it for you, or you can go ahead and unmute yourself and talk to Dr. Goodson directly.
Can I start?
Sure.
Okay. Hi, Dr. Goodson, and thank you for your wonderful presentation. And I also share the same experience like Matt. I got your writing studio years ago, and the golden tip I had from you also, it's about turn off the screen and start writing. Just like write without looking at what you wrote. So this is actually a golden tip, because at that time, I just let all of my ideas flow without thinking about typos or spelling or anything. So I'm following your advice till now. So thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question about using the AI, as you just mentioned. You said like maybe we will talk about it later, but I noticed that there is an increase of using the ChatGPT to revise academic writing among scholars. So how do you perceive the future of academic writing as we have this new approach now? And the second question is, what are the best practices of using this new approach without affecting our learning skills of academic writing? Thank you.
Yeah, go to that ACRI moments when Matt, are you going to send the handout later to everybody? Is that how it's
Yeah,
gonna
I've
work?
actually done it in the chat, Dr. Goodson. I took
Okay.
photos and then I copy and pasted the photo, and then I sent it to myself in an email, and then I pasted it in the chat. So that's the steps.
All right, awesome. Thank you for doing that. So Nahed, I would say check out the ACRI moments, my post, day 5 there, because I gave it a little twist with where I mentioned AI. I think AI can be generative AI. There are different types of AI. So generative AI that basically generates text for you can be very useful in terms of helping you get started, for instance, or helping you structure something a little bit more clearly. The danger I see with AI is the voice. AI will not have your true voice. And the danger I see with that also is the further eroding of trust. So when we write, we enter into a contract with our readers. And the contract is, dear reader, I, the writer, wrote this. These are my ideas. This is my thinking, unless I mark as somebody else's idea with a quotation or something. That's the implicit contract. And I trust, as a reader, I trust my writer as this is this person's idea. If I start reading things that I later learn, oh, it wasn't the person who wrote it, it was a machine who wrote it, my trust, my ability to trust is going to be weakened and eroded. And therein is my biggest fear with AI, is that it's going to further unravel the fabric. The social capital that we have right now is very unraveled already, and AI can contribute to unravel. So, but if at least we're aware of that potential and find ways to somehow maintain the ability to trust, the contract to trust that, yes, this was a person who wrote, will be very important, I think. I have no solutions for it. I can sort of detect the problem, not even too well. But I also think that it's going to become more valuable. The writing that is done by a person is going all of a sudden, in contrast to the writing that's done by a machine. I don't know how it's going to be played out, how we're going to be able to distinguish, etc. I just see that it's going to be much more valuable. Here's an example. Have any of you recently received a handwritten letter? Probably not. But if you have, if a written letter, a long several pages handwritten letter shows up in your mailbox one day, how are you going to feel? It's amazing. I have a friend who loves to send cards, and she handwrites notes on those cards, and she just sends it just because she was thinking of me. She'll send me a card, right? And I can't tell you how I value that versus an email. If she sends me an email, I don't have the same feeling. It doesn't evoke the same emotion with the email as it does. So there's going to be something it's going to, the contrast between AI writing and a person as an author is going to, this contrast is going to, I think, sharpen the value of people-centered. But I have no solutions for academic writing, for students' assignments in class, for proposals, for funding. I have a lot of colleagues who have started to use AI, ChatGPT, to format their grants for them. And so I have no idea how we're going to handle that, Nahed. But my fear is a bigger fear of the erosion of trust and the implications of that for all other areas of knowledge development. How much can we trust the knowledge that's being developed from now on? So sorry, I don't have a solution for anything. Great question.
Thank you so much. Actually, you answered the question because I have the same concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Well, Dr. Goodson, we're at time, so I'm going to wrap us up very briefly. This is the last paths for this semester, but hold back the tears. We will be back in the spring, emerging like the Easter Bunny. So that schedule will be coming out soon, and Kristen Hall will send you an email with that schedule so you can get it on your calendars. Will be same time, same dates, different speakers. That's our semester together. I think we've had an absolute stellar semester and wonderful speakers. Dr. Goodson, you've been the creme de la creme to finish us off for this semester, and we appreciate your time greatly. You do wonderful work, Dr. Goodson, in a much needed area. So thank you, everybody, for your time. This is Past Publication. We're sponsored by the ELRC, Credella, and GSAC, and we will be back in the spring. Have a good morning and take care.
Thank you.